Uh, I will give this presentation together with Robe. We are both online, and we would really like to have it interactively. We call for your attention. I know that the day has been long, but we hope that this part of the presentation you will find it also interesting. Also, because we will zoom out a bit. We will zoom to the Sustainable Development Goals, and in the first stage, we will discuss Sustainable Development Goals and nuclear in general. We will look into the sustainability in practice, not only in the words and in political statements, but really what we do related to this. And then we will bridge to sustainability and circular economy. So this is the topic of the day. And we will look into the dimensions of circular economy and also indicators. But before we go into the Sustainable Development Goals, I would like to look a bit back in the history, because the Sustainable Development Goals, they are not a first attempt that our beautiful world tried to develop to have a better future for everybody, but we are building on Millennium Development Goals, which were first established in 2000, and also for the time of the 15 years, like Sustainable Development Goals. Back then, in Millennium Development Goals, we had only 8 goals, while now we have 17, and also less countries assigned or were involved in the Millennium Development Goals. So the Sustainable Development Goals, they go really universal. They go around the globe for all countries, not only underdeveloped or the countries in the developing countries, but also developed countries. So focus of the Millennium Development Goals was poverty, health, education, and gender. While in the Sustainable Development Goals, we have these 5 P: people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. Like I already said, the Millennium Development Goals, they were more for developing countries, while Sustainable Development Goals are really universal. So for you, me, for the people where we get uranium, for the actually all countries around the globe. We also have a 15 years period. So we started in Sustainable Development Goals 2015, and they should be finished in 2030. So 15 years period, it's quite long period. For instance, my son was born around there, and now he's a big boy already, completely in the becoming an own man. But if we look into the Sustainable Development Goals, all these years, I mean, they went really fast by, and we are almost there in 2030, and we will see what the assessments are telling us, how much did we achieve. While Millennium Development Goals, they were really top-down and aid-based, the community around the world, around the globe, recognized that top-down is not good. We need to go, if we want to achieve and do the progress, we need to be inclusive, sustainable, and integrated. We need to work closely together, that only together we can achieve these things. We are building on something already, on some past experiences, and we try for the best and for the better future. Like I said, we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals, but nuclear is also linked to some of them more, to some of them less. So here I would like to ask you if you can write in the chat the number of Sustainable Development Goals that you think that nuclear is linked with it, that nuclear field can contribute, and including decommissioning. So if you can write in the chat. Robert, do you see something? Because I don't see anything. So did we get already some numbers? So the first one is no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and partnership for the goals. Yeah. Okay. So can you, if you change your mind, please, you are welcome to write the number of sustainable development goals in chat where you think that the nuclear can contribute. And meanwhile, I will already tell you something about this. For instance, sterilization of food. This is sustainable development goals. Ionizing radiation helps with this. In Belgium is one of the countries where we sterilize food with ionizing radiation quite a lot, and this way we prevent that the food would get bad. We can keep a taste. It's doesn't change the structure. Even World Health Organization recognized the benefits of the sterilization of the food with ionizing radiation. So this is the second sustainable development goals. Then, for instance, in medicine, I think that the third sustainable development goals, I think that I don't need to mention. We all know how the radionuclides, for instance, are used in the hospitals to treat or for the diagnosis. And then, for instance, the Sustainable Development Goal 6, clean water and sanitation. For instance, in Morocco, they use isotopes hydrology to trace the origin, age, and flow of the groundwater. Or Sustainable Development Goal 7, which is affordable and clean energy. We all know, for instance, in France, they generate over 70% of its electricity from nuclear power. Or Sustainable Development Goal 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. For instance, in India, gamma radiography and neutron radiography are used in the oil and the gas industry to inspect pipelines and pressure vessels. Also in other countries, for instance, in Netherlands too, here close. And then Sustainable Development Goals 30, climate action. We know that the use of nuclear power reduces greenhouse gas emissions compared to the fossil fuels. Or Sustainable Development Goals 14, life below water. For instance, in Greece, nuclear and isotopic techniques are used to monitor marine pollution, such as tracking the heavy metals and radionuclides in fish and also in sediment. But also SDG 15, life on land. For instance, in Kenya, fallout radionuclides techniques are used to measure and control soil erosion. And Sustainable Development Goal 17, for instance, in the Netherlands, they improved the participatory approaches to community engagement related to the nuclear power plants development or build. So these are sustainable development goals that directly or indirectly can be boosted by the nuclear. So I want to pinpoint out that the sustainable development goals are not linked linear, but they are interconnected story, and everything in this world is connected. Like what I do is connected with the environment around me, and also opposite. And what is happening somewhere in global south is also affecting here and opposite. That's why we don't
Maybe
present.
very shortly, Tanya, if
Yes?
I may add, because in the chat by now there have been some quite some reactions. I see.
Oh,
Well,
please.
there is some consensus on at least two SDGs. So 7, obviously, which goes into energy. There's that's often mentioned. Also 12, which is going into responsible consumption and production. There seems to be consensus. Other than that, there's some differences, not everyone agreeing, and some people also pointing out that, well, probably all of the SDGs can be linked to nuclear directly or indirectly. And I think that's indeed the point that you're coming to now with regard to this interconnection and the various, well, ways in which different actions taken with regard to specific sustainable development goals also have clearly impacts on other SDGs.
Exactly. Okay, thank you. Robert, I don't see much, so please just stop me when you see that there is something in the chat, and I would also like to have this dialogue if it's possible. So one of the presentations of the Sustainable Development Goals is this kind of wedding cake, which says that the biosphere is the foundation of societies and economies and the basis of the Sustainable Development Goals. And hunger and poverty, gender equality, economic growth, all these social goals, we have economic methods to achieve them, but they need to occur within the safe operating space of a stable and resilient planet. This needs resilience, and the society in this wedding cake needs equity, because without this we cannot have any sustainability. So equity is important. And what exactly equity is, we can see here on this slide, because these are the words that are often used: equality, equity, and justice. And I assume that this kind of illustration could help us to understand what does it mean. So on this illustration, you can see two individuals that they have unequal access to the system. In this case, the tree that provides the fruit. With equal support from evenly distributed tools, their access to the fruit still remains unequal. The equitable solution, however, allocates the exact resources that each person needs to access the fruit, leading to the positive outcome for both individuals. While the tree appears to be a naturally occurring system, it's really important that we remember that social systems are naturally inequitable. They have been intentionally designed to reward specific demographic for so long that the system outcomes may appear unintentional but are actually rooted in discriminatory practices and beliefs. So with this image, we can see that equality means each individual or group of people is giving the same resources, opportunities, or equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources and opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. So equity is a solution for addressing imbalanced social system, while justice can take equity one step further by fixing the systems in a way that leads to long-term, sustainable, equitable access to generations to come. And we are really looking through the Sustainable Development Goals to the justice, but also Sustainable Development Goals, they need to be achieved through the justice. For this, we need to harmonize 3 core pillars. So first is social development, which is maintaining long-term well-being for people and communities everywhere. Environmental protection, living within the means of the planet's natural resources, and including economic growth, which is having a thriving economy, but not at the expense of the society and environment. And today we have the topic of the circular economy. I would really like to pinpoint out that we have to thrive for the economy, but not at the expenses of society and the environment. We have a lot of examples in the nuclear, also in the nuclear decommissioning already now, with some of them that they are using good practices, also from the sustainability point of view. Some of them we could hear today, but during the previous presentations. But here is one that is for me really inspiring. It comes from the from UK, Sizewell C. They are in this decommissioning with the sustainable development goals and sustainability, but also circular economy in their mind already long time. So now they can proudly say that they achieve these sustainable goals on the different levels. For instance, they give 6 million homes for 60 years, the low carbon power. They have regional spend agreements. They have more than 900 pounds million of invested in Wales, billions in the north, and 4.5 billion in Suffolk. They also develop really rich partnership with locals, but also further they supported the education. They have a goal, for instance, that by 2030 they would have 40% of women in the nuclear. They are increasing the biodiversity. They support the jobs. They take care for the future generations. So they are making the environment where people can equality come to the to do the stage there at their organization, and so on. So they are really measuring their contribution to sustainability, but also to circular economy. And you can find their reports online, because they are also driving towards the complete openness about the achievements, but also about the challenges. So now we looked a bit into the sustainable development goals and the nuclear, and now we will go to the second part, which is related to sustainability in practice. So here I give the floor to Robe.
Yes, so we will use an online form for a bit of participation. So just some easy yes/no questions. You can actually, well, either scan the QR code here, or you can go to this website, wooclamp.com, in which you need to put a code, or I also put the link in the chat. I will now start sharing my screen for a minute. Yes, so you can join us here. I see that already about 11 people, 12, 30, so the numbers are going up. I will wait until it's kind of stabilizes, and then I will go to the first questions. We'll start with just some easy yes/no questions. Now that Tanya has given a very broad introduction to, well, sustainability and the importance of sustainability also in the nuclear field, linking into the SDGs. We have already seen quite some presentations today that are giving also, well, very practical examples of how sustainability plays a role in nuclear decommissioning. It's time for you to kind of maybe just start with reflecting on, well, where are you and where is your organization when it comes to sustainability, and how do you kind of look at this topic? So I will open the first question. I see that now we are about 40 people in already. You can still join even if the first question is already on the screen. So, but it's just a simple yes/no question. Do you know whether your organization actually has a formal sustainability commitment in the form of clear sustainability goals, or more general strategy, or a set of objectives that it's striving to? Just yes, no. I see that the numbers are very clearly adding up for the yes option. So good to see that As far as we can see, all of the people responding until now state that their organization actually has set some kind of a formal sustainability commitment. We have one person indicating that they have not. I'm going to wait just a couple of seconds because I see that we have about 25 people responding until now. Well, there's 42 people in the room, so.
Maybe meanwhile, when we are waiting, I can just let you know that when we were looking into the scientific articles about the sustainability, there is one group of 60 researchers that they evaluated all the articles that they were published since 2015 to 2024 on sustainability, and they found out that in general, the organizations and political discourse and in general public discourse involves sustainability commitments on paper.
Okay, so I see that now we have 27 people. It's important if you have indicated the yes or the no that you also click the submit button at the bottom of the page. Yeah. Just don't. Yeah. Now I see some more people turning in their answers. So, but it is very clear that the large majority of organizations represented here do seem to have some kind of formal sustainability commitment, and there's only a very small amount which indicate that at the moment they don't have this kind of formal commitment. If we then go to the next question. Do you think that you or well, your colleagues across different departments actually know the specific actions that your organization is taking to implement these sustainability strategies as we have these objectives? I'm assuming that you are also taking actions to get to these objectives. Do you think that you or your colleagues actually know what actions to take or have been taken or will be taken to meet the objectives? Here we already see a bit of a different picture arising. It's more kind of leveling, and then actually at the moment the majority of people seem to indicate, well, not necessarily. They don't think that at least they or their colleagues across the different departments, not only necessarily those only in research or development or in the more industrial department, but also maybe in supporting departments, actually know the specific actions taken. We'll give it another 2 seconds. Again, don't forget to hit the submit button. And then let's maybe make it a bit more specific even. So taking into account that there are probably these actions being taken in your organization towards achieving these goals or strategies, do you actually know whether these actions are being in one way or another being tracked, being assessed, being measured, being reported clearly and openly so that you actually know to what extent you are meeting the objectives which have been set?
What did we see on the second stage is really well-known gap between the attitudes and the behavior. So the attitudes can be completely positive, can be declared positive about the sustainability, while the real behavior, the real actions, they take much more engagement. So this was a good reflection on the things, how much do we know about and how much do we do about.
Yeah, but here we see actually that luckily in quite some organizations it's indicated that yes, although not everyone might know what actions are being taken and not all of the colleagues across the different departments do know them, there are people who are actively measuring these, keeping track of them and kind of seeing to what extent they're actually, well, adhering to and contributing to these sustainability goals. Now let's make it a bit personal then. Like, do you personally also know your role in this work? Or have you taken any kind of direct action that you know of that relates to, well, sustainability and specifically the SDGs in your job? Has this been explained to you by your organization? Is it clear from your everyday workings? Is it clear from your job description? In what way the actions that you take professionally are contributing or not contributing to, well, sustainability as defined in your organization or SDGs even more generally?
Usually we need to include also the, I don't want to answer, or I don't know.
Yeah, but they're not seeing
This
this as
time we
any kind
did
of
that.
representative survey.
Yes.
Also taking into account that I assume that the people who
Yeah.
are here in this training have some form of knowledge already about sustainability
Yeah.
in the nuclear field in general. But even taking
Okay.
that into account, it is interesting to see that about half of the people, or even slightly more than half at the moment here present in the exercise, seem to indicate that actually they don't personally know or have taken any kind of direct action related to sustainability and the SDGs in their job. Which is interesting to see, of course, that there seems to be a bit of a discrepancy between, at the one hand, an organization setting goals, measuring the goals, and the action taken to achieve the goals. But at the other hand, also that there's a bit of unclearness with regard to the extent to which individual employees or members of an organization are actually doing their part in this job. And this kind of is interesting given what Tanya has said also in terms of the interconnectedness and the idea that, well, it is all of our job to contribute to sustainability. So Tanya, over to you again.
Yes. So to assess the sustainable development goals and how much do we contribute and so on, it's really difficult. And and this is also recognized by the international groups. For instance, United Nations, they have interagency and expert group on sustainable development goals indicators, and they developed they developed 234 unique indicators to measure where we are on the way towards our sustainable development goals. Actually, they are 251, but 13 are overlapping with the others. And they...
Tanya, we don't see your slides at the moment. I don't know whether you're...
Oops. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to see you, so it doesn't work really well. Now you see the slides probably or not. You're muted?
Yes, but
okay.
Not in presentation mode.
Okay, I will try to move you. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
Yeah, we will need
you
to
just click on the presentation mode below, then it should...
Yeah, but it's the something is here. Okay, let's just... now it will work. Or not. Okay, so they developed these kind of indicators to measure sustainable development goals, and they identified also, they presented the new indicators now and the assessment of sustainable, how much the world, the globe achieved in the sustainable development goals now in March 2025 on the 56 session of the United Nations meeting, and they identified that indeed it's really difficult to assess what do we do with the sustainable development goals, because there is a huge data gap. There are also the resource constraints. It's really difficult to measure to have educated people to know how to measure, to have the resources to measure these things, but also the indicators are quite complex. So they admitted that to measure to assess how much did we achieve with sustainable development goals, it's really difficult. However, it's not impossible. So they developed these indicators. For instance, this is sustainable development goals related to the partnership for the goals, the last sustainable development goal. And here I put two indicators. The first one is, for instance, financial and technical assistance to developing countries. So they measure this in the dollars, total of the dollars for official development assistance for capacity building and technology transfer. And in the relevance for the nuclear, for instance, it includes International Atomic Energy Agency technical cooperation, nuclear safety trainings, isotope technology transfer, etc. So this is one of the indicators. Another one is here is the resources, money committed to public, private, and civil society partnership. For instance, financial resources pledged to multi-stakeholder partnerships, It's not only about the government, it's also about the private sector, it's about the NGOs, it's about the local communities. In nuclear, for instance, it covers partnerships for nuclear innovation, which we know from the European Commission a lot. They developed this partnership approach. Partnership, for instance, for reactor builds or radiological health access. So these are only some examples for the indicators measuring the being used to assess the sustainable development goals. The results of this committee are a bit frustrating. They found out that only 17% of measurable targets are on track in the European region. So this is of March 2025. They found out that, for instance, inequality is worsening in many regions, undermining progress across multiple goals because they are interacted and connected. And if you have inequality, you fail also on a lot of other sustainable development goals. They also found out that, for instance, climate change and biodiversity loss continue to accelerate, impacting many SDGs related to the environment and to the sustainability. And they also identified that we face challenges in sustainable consumption. So there is a lot of work. We are 2025 now, 5 years still to go, and only 17% of measurable targets are on track. I identified some gaps in the nuclear sector that they are hindering sustainable development goals progress. And I was thinking about these gaps when I was last week, when I was at this FISA conference, FISA and European Rad Waste conference in Warsaw. Not to mention that most of us, we went there by airplane instead of by the train because it's faster and it's also cheaper. So economic and time is, it's not a good measurement whether we are sustainable or not because we can fail from this. But also I identified quite some others too. So I saw that we have lack of nuclear infrastructure, for instance, in developing countries, for instance, for radioisotopes production. I noted that long-term nuclear waste solutions are still lacking in most of the countries. I noticed that we are missing skilled workforce, that that the global access to the medical isotopes is not just, that public and stakeholder engagement is not at the level which could be justifiable, for instance, for the Sustainable Development Goal 17, that we have a lack of resilience in the supply chains, that also from the security and safety point of view, nuclear installations are involved in armed conflicts, and they are also misused in the armed conflicts, which doesn't contribute to the first sustainable development goals, which is no poverty and peace and so on. And also there is a lack of the circular economy mentality in nuclear. We still think quite a lot about the linear economy. So this was about the sustainable development goals in practice. But let's look how sustainability and circular economy are actually connected. I already indicated something, for instance, me going to Warsaw, not by train, because train is more expensive and time consuming. it has to do something with the economy and sustainability. So how sustainability and circular economy are connected? I give the floor again to Robert to run the box
Well, and I
populi.
give the floor to all of you, obviously. So again, you can go to this book club either through the link, or if it's still open, that it's still open. So I'm assuming this will go rather smoothly. And now it's up to you to well, to provide some input. We have already heard this term circular economy a lot of times, also in the case studies that were in the last presentation. A lot of practices that could contribute to circular economy have been already mentioned. But if you could put some keywords and just keep it indeed to one word, like what do you
Can you share
find to
screen,
be?
Robert?
Yes, I think, no, something went wrong with the sharing of screen. Yes. So what do you consider to be like key characteristic, fundamental characteristic of a circular economy approach? You can write up to maximum three keywords, and I see that you're already doing this. So I see that, well, the R's are already very present, reuse, recycling, resourcefulness here as well. Sustainability. So indeed, well, this link between sustainability and circular economy, although it's not always a straightforward link. I think Daniel will go into this in a minute. There are sometimes, well, you could say circular economy practices which are not necessarily sustainable, and there's a lot of sustainable actions that you could take which are not circular. So there's not always a one-on-one link.
I really
Cradle
like
to
this
cradle, I
cradle.
also see.
I really like this cradle to cradle. I saw there, now it's already small, but in FISA, I heard a lot cradle to grave, you know. Of course, there was a waste
that's
community,
of course very linear approach, cradle to
yes.
grave. It's so
Really nice cradle to cradle.
recycling is very often mentioned, I see. So
recycle, reuse, repair, yeah.
Yeah, the different R's, waste, repair,
Nice.
minimal. I'm assuming that's the minimalization of waste or of outputs or leakages from your system.
Okay.
So indeed, well, there seems to be quite some consensus if you take into account the different
no more waste.
synonyms
Did
as
you
well
see?
there. Yeah, no more waste indeed. So yes, so these are kind of, let's say, the initial links that a lot of us, I think, always will make when we think of circular economy. So Tanya, this is for you kind of a starting point to delve into this topic and kind of, well, explore this link between circular economy and sustainability. So
yes. Okay. So we go further. So we could see that circular economy and sustainability, they are linked, but they are not the same. So circular economy focuses on material flow, where sustainability focuses on people, planet, and prosperity. Circular economy is a tool or a model, while sustainability is a goal or destination. I even don't like destination so much, but more the way, the path, you know, how do we go towards bright future? And circular economy can support sustainability, but doesn't guarantee without safeguards. So it's not necessary everything what is circular economy that it is also sustainable. So how to decommission in line with circular economy and sustainable development goals? We know that the age of the many reactors is going toward the end of the life cycle, but we could see also from our HARPES colleagues and stakeholders and everybody who contributed to the HARPES that there was one general comment by HARPES participants, and they said, consider distinction between sustainability and circular economy. But in general, we were all over again in broader definition. We were all over again the circular economy and sustainability, they go hand in hand, and it's not It's really difficult to distinction between these two. But on the other hand, I would also like to stress that we have in the nuclear decommissioning, we have a huge public support for circular economy, which goes in line with sustainability. For instance, here are results from the Belgium barometer that we conducted last year. And we ask people, in your opinion, what should happen with Belgium nuclear power plants after they have permanently stopped producing nuclear energy? And I must say that these are the representative for the Belgian population with respect to age, gender, province, education. And if you can see orange and yellow, the people, they agreed, so this is almost 40% of people said reuse of parts of the installation, for instance, its foundation, for other non-nuclear industrial purposes, or site reuse for activities involving radioactive materials, for instance, storage of nuclear waste. So a strong support for the circular economy in this. And then I would like to recall our previous presentation from the Ludovic. We also asked people, they also had an option, carry out necessary works so that the site is preserved in a safe way for many decades until remaining radioactivity has decayed. So the option that it's not, I mean, the waste on the site and so on, that it's not legal now at this moment, it's also somehow close to the people, 25%. So in general, a high public support for the circular economy. So if we discuss about the circular economy, is this what it was there in the cloud? Reducing waste at sources, better, for instance, better reactor design, maximizing reuse, recycling, repurposing, and then on the bottom line, safe long-term disposal for the rest. So this ladder ranks waste management options from the most to the least preferred. So we start with the prevention, which says avoid creating waste in the first place. Also, some people in this cloud that Robe just did said no waste, for instance. Then reuse, use the items again instead of throwing them away. For instance, we know the cases where the nuclear power plants went into the decommissioning, and the furniture from the nuclear power plant was given to the local community. So the local community could use this furniture later on, or opposite, in the hotel in the local community, where they had these towels that they were not so good anymore, but they were still okay to use. They gave these towels to the decommissioning organization that the workers could use these towels. So reuse the resources. Or recycling, which is process materials to make a new products. This we could hear today a lot during a lot of presentations. Or energy recovery, which is convert waste to energy, and landfill or without energy recovery, this is the least preferred. So the idea is to climb down the ladder from prevention towards disposal, minimizing environmental harm by emphasizing the prevention and reuse over the disposal. But like we said, circular doesn't mean always sustainable. For instance, there are some materials that can be recycled but require huge energy inputs, making the process less sustainable. Or keeping hazardous materials in the loop may create a long-term health or ecological risks. Or a system can be circular but exploit labor or pollute communities. We know this also from the nuclear history. Yeah? And or for instance, efficiency gains can lead to increased consumption, undermining sustainability goals. For instance, we say, okay, we will build SMRs, on the sustainable, on the circular economy way and sustainable way, but this means that, for instance, if we will not be careful how we communicate these things and how we build on the culture, people will say, okay, we can use more energy, you know. So not all circularity is sustainable. There are, of course, a lot of other examples too. But in Harpes, what we did, it was that we looked into the what circularity in decommissioning means. First of all, we found out that linear economy in decommissioning should be definitely replaced by the circular from the start. So of course we have some new installations that they can be already built with the mind instead that they will be reused or repurposed at the end of the life cycle. But also the old installations where they still, when they build them up, they still didn't think about how they will be decommissioned, how they can be used in the circular economy, or how they can be repurposed. They also need to have this approach. So we were looking for consolidated definition of circular economy. What exactly does it mean? Key concepts, dimensions, but also we identified that the circular economy has societal, environmental, safety, economic, and also legal dimensions. Indicators were also developed and defined. So we will look into this more in details, but up till now I mentioned repurposing, and this repurposing is also some concept, some term that International Atomic Energy Agency is using or starting to use or getting used to it. So they had a series of technical meetings and consultancy meetings to see how the nuclear power plants can be repurposed. And they pinpointed out that this is definitely a new mindset and new framework where we need to think about the decommissioning not as a end of the lifetime, but beginning of something new. And it's that we make really circle. It's not cradle to grave, but it's cradle to cradle. They also pinpointed out that there are a huge complexities of the repurposing. For instance, multiple interrelated factors, dynamic context, really site dependent, really policy dependent, really legally dependent. They found out also that the stakeholder engagement is a key for the site repurposing, where we need to ensure integrity, inclusiveness, and also participation. But also they found out that repurposing vision and adaptive approach should be integrated in the planning already. We should start, this community today should start talking about this, and it's in deep interrelationship with the decommissioning. So when we think about to repurpose the nuclear sites, we need to shift three key mindsets in the society. We need to know that the decommissioning of nuclear power plants should be seen as the start of a new phase, not the end of the process. The second concept that we need to do a big shift in our minds is, while circularity generally supports sustainability, it is essential to design circular economy strategies that holistically promote both also environmental and social sustainability, not only economic. And the third shift is that engagement means consulting and involving stakeholders in decision-making process, not merely informing them about the predetermined outcomes. So these are three huge mental shifts that we are still trying to develop and adapt. What we also found out is that the term in Harpes, that the term circular economy in nuclear decommissioning has been used inconsistently, leading to potential misinterpretation, mismatching between the circular economy definitions and practices. we were able also to identify some kind of circular economy washing or sustainable washing. So we were really looking to how can we help the nuclear decommissioning and waste management community, and we were looking for how can circular economy be defined in the context of nuclear decommissioning to ensure clarity and consistency so that we will start speaking with one voice and that we will understand when we are speaking about circular economy, about what we are speaking, that the mental model in our head will be the same. And what key indicators can assess the practical implementation of circular economy in decommissioning. So these are quite big tasks. Remember, recall back at the beginning of my presentation when I said that United Nations, they also have a special body to develop the indicators. Okay, for all sustainable development goals, but the project Harpes did it for the decommissioning and we succeeded. So we developed some of the things that we will present, but first I will give the floor to Robe because Robe
Yes,
has again exercise for you.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the clock, Tanya. We only have about 10 more minutes, so that's not so much time. So I suggest that we skip maybe this interactive session, that we go immediately to the definition and indicators to wrap everything up because we only have 10 more minutes.
Okay. So Harpes project explored what is definition, what are criteria, and what are indicators for circular economy in the decommissioning. And in general, we found out that social sustainability during decommissioning requires community engagement, equitable access, preservation of culture and heritage, economic opportunities, safety and health, sustainable livelihood. But also environmental sustainability during decommissioning requires resource efficiency, waste reduction, energy efficiency, water conservation, ecosystems protection, pollution control, climate resilience, and so on. And that we are looking for the balanced circular economy, because while circularity generally supports sustainability, it's essential to design circular economy strategies that holistically promote both environmental and also social sustainability. For this, we applied some special method that is called Delphi study. I will not go into this method, but we did many iterations. We started with these definitions. Circular economy represents a model of production and consumptions based on waste minimization and reuse and efficient use of available resources in all phases. So we developed different dimensions: societal, environmental, legal, economical, and technical, and then also some criteria about them. And then we started to discuss about in our community about these things. So how did we define the circular economy? So the starting point was circular economy represents a model of production and consumptions based on the waste minimization and reuse of efficient use of available resources in all phases. And our participants, they said, no, we are missing some aspects. For instance, focus on materials and assets, retain as long as possible. So the best decommissioning would be just continue the lifetime as long as it's safe, which a lot of countries are doing, including Belgium. It should be planning, design, acknowledge constraints, old installations, for instance, and connections to sustainability. They advised us that we need to include principles of circular economy and be much more specific on decommissioning. So we went back and we improved our definition. So this was the second stage, but I will skip it now. I will show you only the final stage. And we said circular economy in decommissioning represents a model of production and consumptions based on the efficient use of available resources in all phases. This by retaining assets and materials in circulation at their highest value for as long as possible, and minimizing waste through processes like sharing, maintenance, repairing, reuse, refurbishment, remanufacturing, recovering, and recycling. So the key principles: keep materials in circulation at their highest value, reduction of waste in pollution, nature regeneration, and these principles should be applied from the design stage through the implementation and management of industrial projects. So when we are building a new nuclear installations, these key principles, they need to be integrated in it. And then it's also that application of circular economy principles in decommissioning is relevant for both for new nuclear facilities as well for the existing facilities, for instance, through sharing facilities, reuse radioactive and non-radioactive materials and equipment, recycling of metal components, reuse of equipment parts and building materials in construction projects, maintaining and repurposing buildings for other industrial or, for instance, medical uses, but also that circular economy approach in the context of decommissioning can result in process innovation, reduce consumption of raw materials, generation of less radioactive and non-radioactive waste, repurposing of facilities and or sites, lower costs and lower environmental pollution. More generally, as an economic model, circular economy can contribute to sustainability. So this was what our participants developed. But they developed also dimensions and indicators. So the first dimension, for instance, it relates to the societal, which includes aspects related to local communities, participation, impacts of people's life. And this dimension, for instance, the criterion, for instance, is shift in infrastructure, perceived impact on the landscape. This is nice to have, they said. Participation in decision making, this is of key importance. Impact of local knowledge and skills, impact on traffic, impact on local values and cultural practices, and restrictions on future land use. They described really well, but there are also the indicators for each of them. For instance, participation in decision making. You can see here indicator. It measures whether you only inform people, you only provided information, you also collected their opinions, you included two-way dialogue, or you did multi-stakeholder interactions, or even partnership approach. So all these are measurable criteriums with the indicators. The dimension.
Just to tell you that you have 5 minutes.
Okay. So then we have on the same level, we have the environmental dimension, emissions to air, carbon footprint, noise, dust, and outdoor generation of waste, power consumption, material reduced in circulation, soil and water pollution, impact on ecosystem, use of natural resources, assets are reused or retention, minimization of use of new raw materials, and natural generation. And then we had health and safety, for instance, risks of accidents, public and for workers, recovery time, risks of natural disasters, and we took out exposure to hazardous substances. Here, all of them, they have descriptions and indicators. Then techno-economic dimension, investment and maintenance costs and return on investments, employment, decommissioning duration, for instance, indicator is measuring in years, feasibility, technological readiness levels is a good indicator, and overall economic cost and benefits in the euros per year. And then is the final one, which is legal compliance with the expected future regulatory framework, and indicator is very easy, qualitative, for instance, from very unlikely to very likely. So when we have all these indicators and dimensions, then we need to have some kind of criteria and methods that can be used to decide the importance and weighting of different indicators in sustainability and circular economy assessment. In Harpes, we conducted also multi-criteria decision analysis, which is a process for structured decision aid. The first part, you have description, you identify relevant social actors, their values, desires, and preferences. You build shared understanding of the problem. You identify decommissioning and waste management strategies. Then you use our definition, dimensions, objectives, criteria, and so on. And then you evaluate strategies, impact, and equality and justice. You remember this picture here. Aggregation and ranking, robustness and sensitivity analysis, and then you do critical reflection and restructuring if needed. And this you need to do together with the stakeholders. I want to pinpoint out that social multi-criteria evaluation is interdisciplinary. It requires social, economic, and environmental goals. Criteria are expressed in their natural scale. It can be qualitative and quantitative, but it's also a social process where you have to include stakeholders, values, and preferences. You need stakeholder engagement and involvement, and you need combination of scientific, but also social knowledge. Here I invite you all to read this International Atomic Energy Agency document, which is new. Last year it was published. It's for the site remediation, but the criteria, the method explained there inside is also applicable for decommissioning. So to conclude, you need to engage with public and stakeholders, and for this, to apply these indicators and dimensions. And for this, you can use different participation methods, which I will skip now, but I will just conclude that nuclear energy, decommissioning, and waste management play a key role in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. So there is more than only one Sustainable Development Goal that is connected to our daily job. That sustainability in nuclear sector holds significant potential, which we don't use enough at this moment, and we need to do much better push to achieve the goals. That the mindset shift is essential from linear to circular models and from purely economic to integrated social and environmental values. That conducting sound assessments is vital towards the meaningful impact, and that collaborative, transparent assessment with the public and stakeholders is crucial for the meaningful progress.